Today, boys and girls, we are on lesson 10.6 on page 593, measure length. Okay, today we're going to see how we can generate measurement data and show data on a line plot. You have learned how to measure length to the nearest inch. Sometimes the length of an object is not a whole unit. For example, a paperclip is more than 1 inch, but less than 2 inches. You can measure length to the nearest half inch or even fourth inch. The half-inch markings on a ruler divide each inch into 2 equal parts, and the fourth inch markings divide each inch into 4 equal parts. A ruler is a lot like a number line. Okay, so here we have our ruler down here in red, right? And here's 1 inch, here's 0 inches. And then it has these other markings, right? So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 markings to the 1 inch mark from 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means each one of these is a fourth of an inch. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and then 1 whole we know is 4/4. So we can compare that directly to this number line up here. Okay. The other thing we can do is look at it and notice that this mark, we have our 0 and our 1, and then the one in the middle is a little bit longer than these other two, right? So if we look at that one, the one in the middle, now we have 2 equal parts. 1, 2 equal parts, right? So that means we've divided it into 0 halves, 1/2, and 2 halves, which is a lot like that one right there. Okay. Unlock the problem. It says use a ruler to measure the glue stick to the nearest half inch. We start here at the edge, at the end, on that little line, and the glue stick ends right here. So as it says, line up the left end of the glue stick with the 0 mark on the ruler. The right end of the glue stick is between the half-inch marks for, for 2 and 3 inches. Okay. The mark that is closest to the right end of the glue stick is for 2.5 inches. Okay. So the length of the glue stick to the nearest half inch is 2.5 inches. So there we measured to the nearest half because, it's closest to this mark right here. Okay, so we have 2 inches, 2.5 inches, and then 3 inches, and it's closest to that 2.5 inch mark. Okay, now here we're going to measure to the nearest fourth inch. So we have our paper clip, we line it up on the left, and it stops right here. So here we look at these marks. So here's 1, 1.25, 1 2/4, 1 3/4, and then 2. And it's closest to that one right there, which is, if we can count them out again, that's the 1/4 here, 2/4 here. Let me erase my arrow. This is 3/4, and then here this is 4/4, but it's actually the next whole inch, so it's just 2 inches there. Okay, so it's closest to that mark right there. All right, so it's between the right end of the paper clip is between the fourth inch marks for 1 2/4 and 1 3/4. And it's closest to the right end of the paper clip for the 1 3/4. So it is 1 3/4 inches long, almost. Pretty close, right? Okay, well, let's move over. We'll continue this kind of practice. Okay, it says to measure the length of 10 crayons. So you can borrow my crayons, measure their lengths to the nearest half inch, and then complete the line plot. draw an X for each length. So before you get started, let's pretend I measured a crayon that was 2 inches long. I would put an X there. And then I measured a crayon that was 2.5. I'd put an X there. And then I measured a crayon that was 1, and another crayon that was 2, and a crayon that was 3.5. Okay, so each X represents a crayon that I measured. So don't measure the same crayon more than once, right? Make sure you measure a total of 10 total crayons to complete your line plot. So if we look at my line plot right now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I have 6. So I would need to do 4 more, okay? So after you've done your line plot, describe any patterns you see in your line plot. And what they mean by patterns, you might want to mention the one measurement that happened the most often. That would be a pattern. Or something that really didn't happen at all. You could talk about the longest measurement that you had and the shortest one, those types of things. Okay, that's what they mean by a pattern. All right, after you've done measuring your own, okay, your own crayons or my crayons, then you're going to try this. Measure the length of your fingers to the nearest 1/4 inch and complete the line plot. Draw an X for each finger, okay? Your thumb counts as a finger, so all of us have in this classroom 10 fingers. So you should have 10 X's in here somewhere, okay? Share and show. I'm just going to look at the first one and then let you guys do the rest on the next page. You will need to show me your share and show. Measure the length to the nearest 1/2 inch. Is the key closest to 1.5, 2, or 2.5? So you will need your book and a ruler to measure this distance from here to here, and then whichever one it's closest to the nearest 1/2 inch, you'll write it right there. Okay? That's all I have today, boys and girls. Do your best, persevere, show integrity. I don't think this lesson is too difficult using your ruler. If you don't have your ruler, you can, of course, borrow mine. As always, this is Mr. P, and I'm out.